Bom tarde, Aquaba. Welcome. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. We hope you are reaching your highest level of mental, physical, and a spiritual strength, you all. And we're glad that you join us this Sunday for this 159th episode of Our Ancestors' Voices, a program sponsored by the All African People's Revolutionary Party, the APRP. Today's topic on Our Ancestors' Voices is the importance of African-Asian solidarity, very critical topic. So we're glad that you're here to join us. And it's a very appropriate topic for me today because just an hour ago, I returned to the house here from the University of California, Davis, and I was out there because they had a Pride commemoration there today, and they had a drag show, and they had asked me, the young people out there had asked me to come and help them coordinate security. They've gotten threats from white supremacist groups who are intolerant to people and want to come and cause violence for people who have a different existence in the world than they do. And of course, I accepted with honor and went out there, and we had some minor problems, but nothing we were not able to deal with successfully to ensure that the program was successful. And the other thing I want to say about that is I just don't get it. You know, I mean, I stood there, I was in front of the stage at the event. There were about 1,000 people there doing security. And I wasn't watching the show because when you're doing security, you can't watch the show. You got to watch the people. But because the performers were so full of energy, they would come out, the drag queen performers, they would come out and they would dance in front of the stage. And they did a lot of performing with children. There were a lot of children there. And I just don't understand why anybody that sees that event, why you would not think, like, there was absolutely nothing inappropriate about the event, is my point. Like, they were dancing, and if you had children, the only thing your children are getting out of an event like that is an appreciation for everybody, including people that are different than they might be. And anyone who has an issue with that is just completely ignorant, stupid, and just not really somebody that can make a concrete contribution to take the world in a forward direction. And you know, if that offends people to hear that, then I think that's just wonderful that you're offended. I'm starting off this program by doing our job successfully. And as I was leaving there about an hour ago, you know, I was leaving, people were thanking me and, you know, just thank you for doing this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing security. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I kept telling them, you don't have to thank me. It's an honor to be here, to engage in this solidarity work. And you know, I truly mean that, because I think that you know, one of the people talking to me, I told him, like, this injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That's what Dr. King taught us. And you know, I know that neo-Nazis, if they're coming to a drag queen show to shut it down and they see me on the street, you think they're not going to stop and harass me? I mean, that's just common sense there. So I don't care who the neo-Nazis are going after, or Proud Boys or Poot Butt Boys or whatever the hell they're supposed to be. If I see them, that's the enemy. We got to deal with that. So I'm proud to do that. They asked me to come out. They got another one happening, another drag show happening in a couple of weeks here in the redneck foothills. And I told them, you know, I'll be there for sure. For sure. I'll be there whenever you have one, because we have to see it as our responsibility to stamp out injustice. And I was able to help train some folks because, you know, I don't want to be doing this. You know, I'm 61 years old, you know, walking around for 4 hours today in the 95-degree heat. That's not something I want to be doing 10 years from now. So I'm training a lot of folks on how to do it, how we can take care of each other as community. And that rolls right into the topic for today, because we're talking about solidarity, African-Asian solidarity. So we're glad you're here. We honor the indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere without question for their just fight to get their lands back. And we honor our African ancestors without question, because they're the only reason why we're here. And we're glad that you're here to join us. And we'll get started just with our usual basic introductions. Our Ancestors' Voices is sponsored by the All African People's Revolutionary Party, the AAPRP. The APRP is a revolutionary, independent, mass Pan-African political party that is based in Africa. If you paid any attention to the number of African Liberation Day programs we had last week, then that point is clear. African Liberation Day is based in Africa. The African Revolution is based in Africa. The forward progress for African people everywhere in the world is based upon what happens in Africa. So that's why we say Pan-Africanism is the correct solution, which we define correctly as one unified socialist Africa. That's what we're fighting for. And the work to achieve Pan-Africanism is outlined in Kwame Nkrumah's Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare. And our Ancestors' Voices is hosted each week by myself, Ajamu, and Shakura, father-daughter, biologically, ideologically, and both active members in the All African People's Revolutionary Party. So glad to be able to stand in solidarity with folks in our LGBTQ plus community. And as I stood out there, I just thought over and over, people are just trying to live, y'all. That's all they're trying to do. And, you know, for people who would say to me, well, what are you doing standing with them? I would die in a second to help people live. And I don't get, if you don't understand that, then you're the problem. You might be the first person I need to kill if you don't understand that. That's what we got. We got to have that kind of mentality if we're ever going to change this situation. So honored to do that, honored to talk about Asian African solidarity. And so just to get us started, I'll turn it over to Shakura.
Much thanks to you, kind sir. Appreciate that. Greetings, everyone. Yes, this is such an important topic, you all, and we always try to recycle certain seminars, like just to keep the topics fresh on our minds and whatnot. I think it's really possible that because we live in capitalism, we have to work overtime to deconstruct and to unlearn the capitalistic individual ways that the system has taught us to function, the selfish ways that it's taught us to function. And so, yes, we have done this particular topic already, and we will continue to recycle them in, because some of these topics are so much more than just the title that you see on the slide. And more than that, we need to actually start practicing what the seminar's purpose is, right? So it doesn't make sense for you to join us for an hour and then still have the same European, Eurocentric ideologies that you have when it comes to thinking about how Africans are just for Africans and we don't need anyone else's help to achieve our struggle, and therefore you're not going to help anybody else achieve their struggle. That's not going to get us anywhere. And newsflash, it has not already gotten us anywhere. Like, that's part of the problem. That's the reason that we're in the jam and the pickle that we're in currently, because we do think that we can handle this by ourselves, and we simply cannot. Nothing in the history of time, nothing in the herstory of time, nothing in the theirstory of time has ever occurred when an individual group has somehow managed to achieve that by themselves. More importantly, an individual person. It's simply impossible. And I can give some examples of what that looks like. But first, we need to acknowledge that there's no harm in asking for help. I think that's the first thing. If we're just going to be real, like, we need to address that and acknowledge that I guess some of us have egos, or some of us feel like we can get Africa back on our own. And once we get Africa back, we can determine how the resources are spent on our own. How is that possible? We're not even respected as human beings today in the face of the earth. We're not valued. We're continued to get shot down left and right. Our trans comrades are being kidnapped left and right. Our non-male comrades are being raped and kidnapped left and right. We're reading news stories about sex trafficking that is happening in 2023 to African people currently. Our comrades are being gunned down. Our comrades are being criminalized for walking into stores and simply purchasing Skittle packets, but being assumed that they are there as a threat. So how is it possible that we can achieve anything by ourselves? We need help. And there's nothing wrong with that. And guess what? Other colonized people need help too. but they seem to have already understood that lesson, whereas we're still trying to learn it. So therefore, we're going to recycle this as much as possible, because we need to humble ourselves and admit that A, it's okay to ask for help, and B, when you get help, that's actually when results take place. That's when you see the achievements unfold of what you've been trying to do. This is really important, because the thing about asking for help is usually you might ask someone for help because they have a shared similarity as you. There's a common denominator between you and that person. Now, sure, you might ask someone for help and you could have nothing in common with that other person. But in this case, African people asking and humbling ourselves to ask our Asian descent comrades for their help and assistance, that is one of the smartest things we can do. Why? Because a lot of our Asian comrades understand from a sympathetic and empathetic standpoint what it means to be colonized, because they too are experiencing that. Not all of our Asian descent comrades have control of their land. So therefore, they can understand what some of the repercussions and implications would be, which is why they understand why we need to get our land back. On a more important note, both of us should understand that when we help the other person achieve that specific goal of getting their land back, because if we have said it before, we will say it again. Land ownership equals power. It's very, very simple. Land ownership equals power. If you and the people that you originate with control how your land is being used, if you control the resources that come from your land, people are going to respect you, because you have the initiative and the drive, and you have the say-so, and you have the gumption to determine how things happen that affect your land and the people that come from your land. The same is true if you don't control your land. People will walk over you. They will steal your resources. They will exploit you. They will rape the people that come from your land, and they will not think twice about it. They will kill your children and send toys that have bombs inside of them, because they don't have to care about how you survive on this planet. All they have to care about is what your land can do for them. This is precisely why Occupy Palestine is one of the main reasons why we want to support our Palestinian comrades, because we understand that they don't have control of their land, and therefore people are not respecting Palestinian people. You know what? Palestinian people understand that too, because they understand that Africans do not control Africa, so therefore no one respects African people. And so it stands to reason that we understand that our Asian descent comrades need to have our back, and we need to have theirs, because if any of this is going to change, it's only going to change when we rise up and we can back them on a more larger level. Everyone knows that the larger number of people you have working against you, the harder it is for a system, especially an oppressive one, to continue in its natural state. At some point, it's going to be too much, because the pushback and the resistance is going to be too much, and the system is going to break, just as capitalism has broken. We have socialistic programs that take place every single day, and we experience them every single day, because capitalism is crumbling. It's not breaking immediately. It's a slow process, but capitalism is crumbling. It doesn't have a choice, because socialism is rising up, and people are using socialistic programs and not even knowing that they are based on a socialist principle. And so it's possible for Africans to support Asian descent folks and to help in their struggle to achieve them getting their land back. That is quite possible, and it's necessary. Because if you've checked around lately, we don't have the numbers, you all. We do not have the numbers. And if we're truly trying to achieve one unified socialist Africa, where all of the countries are determined by one principle in terms of how we all operate, if we have one economic system, if we determine how our resources are being spent, let's just think about that for a second. Like really, really, really think about it. And shout out to the Nzinga Circle, Work Study Circle, because we talked about this in detail yesterday. So this example is fresh on my mind. So if you truly think about how two heads are better than one, you should think about the fact that if we African people support Occupy Palestine and Palestinians getting their land back, that benefits African people for Palestinians to get their land back. What do you mean, Shukura? Well, if Palestinians get their land back, then they're not going to need to have a resource reservoir set up where they are cleaning the diamonds that come from our Azania and other countries such as that. They're going to understand that they don't need to clean our diamonds because they're not going to be taking our diamonds from us. We are not going to be sending them our diamonds because we will have a way to clean our own diamonds, and therefore the proceeds will stay within the African continent. We will find a way to determine how our diamonds are being cleaned, and we won't allow Israeli people take over the profit, to send them to De Beers, to send them to Jared and all these other diamond companies that are exploiting, because we get to determine that. Palestinian people don't have to worry about being kicked out of their home and their land because they will have resources to be able to get back their land, and we will have resources to decide how the diamond profits are going to benefit the African nation. That's one particular example. I could literally talk about this for days, but we don't have the kind of time because, as we said before, and we say it again, it's up to you to join an organization that's working for justice. I have found a perfect one for me, and it's because of the reading materials. It's because of the political education. It's because of the groundwork that I'm doing that I'm able to apply the theory to the practice, and I'm able to see it unfold in true form in real life right here. So it's up to you to take responsibility for how much information you want to obtain in terms of being a stronger person. But I can guarantee you that we're going to need more education behind that. This is why we ask you to increase your political education, because it starts with having a better understanding of what that looks like. Next slide, please. So again, where is the idea coming from that we don't need any help, that we can do this by ourselves? Where's that coming from? That might be coming from us because some of us are ignorant, but I'm pretty sure a lot of these foreign ideologies that we somehow have intercepted and interpreted in ourselves and accepted within ourselves are really coming from a European external source. That's really where they're coming from. And somehow they have communicated to us that if we do need to ask for help, something is wrong with us. We're not as powerful, we're vulnerable, we're not as strong, we're weak because we're asking for help. I really don't understand where that narrative came from, because actually, if you are humble enough to understand that it's okay to ask for help, then you're probably going to get more than you bargained for. There's probably more Asian comrades right now who are studying more about the African struggle and interested in doing everything they can to help with that fight. But maybe they just need a way to get in. Maybe they're trying to figure out which African organization they can reach out to so that they can come be an ally and support the next African event that we have, just like my dad talked about the AAPRP joining the LGBTQ Pride event that took place today in Davis. And so this is why it's so important for us to humble ourselves and to just put aside the ego. The ego is built up based on capitalist imperialist principles anyway. And if you really want to get your land back, then you're not going to be able to do that by not asking for help. I would also give the example, if you think about raising a child, not just in America, but in any part of the world, if you think about raising a child from the moment that they are really from the moment that they are born, but really, if you are giving them human milk, or even if you're choosing to give them formula, diapers, if you're doing cloth diapers or regular diapers, if you need a playpen, if you need a crib, all of these resources, typically you'll need to ask for some help at some point in that child's life. You are not going to be able to pay for every single thing that child needs, because at some point, even if you do pay for all the things, you may not be able to pick them up for soccer practice. You may not be able to drop them off for their ballet recital. You may not be able to take them to get their first haircut. This is why it's okay to ask for help, because the African proverb says that it takes a village to raise a child, meaning if you need help raising a child, then we surely need help getting our land back. We're talking about raising a child, which is a lot, but getting an entire continent back, that's a little bit more intense, don't you think? The same thing if you're raising a pet. You're not going to be able to afford all the dog food in the world or all the cat litter in the world. At some point, you're going to need help. You might need help having someone pick the dog up. You might need help having someone pick the cat up or taking the cat to the vet. It's okay to ask for help, but the point remains the same. If you need help raising a cat or an animal, you are darn sure that we are going to need help getting our land back. And the problem is we have been displaced and without our land for so long that we need all the help we can get, you all. And why shouldn't we take that help? Why shouldn't we take it? Because the same thing that infuriates us is probably infuriating our Asian descent comrades. The same disrespect that we experience, they can attest to that because they've experienced it as well. The same dehumanization that we have experienced, they have experienced it as well. Appropriation of culture, exploitation of resources, they have experienced it as well. And if you don't believe me, join an organization that's working for justice and find an Asian descent organization that's working for justice and bridge the two together and have these conversations. Figure out how to have an event that is co-sponsored by an African organization and an Asian one and talk about these kind of things, because this is what it's going to take. There is a reason that we have different comrades from different organizations and different colonized backgrounds be speakers at our ALD functions and at our Pan-African Women's Day functions. That is not by accident, you all. As an African organization, we intentionally ask people outside of the African nation to speak on their behalf of their background so that they can still explain to us the heartache, the torture, the dehumanization, the racism, the sexism, the patriarchy, the homophobia, the transphobia, the xenophobia, the colonization today that they are still experiencing, the repercussions of the colonization today that they are still experiencing. We asked them to speak at African Liberation Day and at Pan-African Women's Day because we need to help everyone understand not only are these global problems that are happening, which is why we are a Pan-African organization, because these things are happening to Africans everywhere. But aside from that, we ask our comrades from outside organizations to speak so that Africans can raise their political education about the struggles of other people, so that we can gravitate to them, so that we can organize with them. It's not an accident that they speak at these events every year. That's by design, so that we can bridge the gaps, so that we can come together, so that we don't have to worry about being humble, because we know that their struggle is our struggle and vice versa. No one ever said that we had to take our land back by ourselves, and shame on us if we think that's possible. It's not. But it can be possible if we come together, because collectivism is the only answer to our struggle. And it is a solution because victory is certain. As I said, capitalism is closing. Capitalism is crumbling in closing. That's what I meant to say. Capitalism is crumbling, and we have a responsibility to look out for one another. We have a responsibility to look out for our Asian comrades, and we hope that they will look out for us too. We have a responsibility to look out for any colonized person, any marginalized groups, anyone that is suffering at the hands of oppression. We need to support them by resisting as much as we can. However that looks, we need to do that, and we need to be consistent with it. And believe it or not, the best way to support Asian descent comrades is to join an organization that is working for justice. Yes, you can have conversations with our comrades when you see them on the streets, when you go in grocery stores, but the best way and the more effective way is to join an organization that is working for justice. Because in doing that, you're going to have more of a knowledge bank on what is going on with our Asian comrades. Once you understand what struggle and strife they have been dealing with, then you're going to be more equipped to join and organize with other Africans about ways to support that struggle. Alutua continua.
Ashe, ashe, ashe. Thank you very much. And so, as we continue on with this discussion about concrete reasons why solidarity strengthens us, let's start with where a lot of us are. Like we get it, we understand. The scene that the movie Menace to Society opens with. I know most people have seen that movie. It's 30 years old at this point. The scene where it opens when, Tyrone Turner and Lorenz Tate, the characters they're playing, Kane and O-Dog, they go in the liquor store in LA, and the Koreans own the liquor store, and there's tension. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't need anybody to tell me about those contradictions. I grew up in inner city San Francisco, and when I was growing up, there were nothing in the community except Asian-owned stores, Arab stores, and a few African stores. So I get that. But the point that we want to make about that is that those types of conditions do not define us as a people, nor do they define those other communities as a people. What they really do a lot more to define is how the capitalist system works, regardless of who it is we're talking about. It's an exploitative system where people set up these stores in poor neighborhoods, and they view the people in those neighborhoods as people who are supposed to be exploited, that they're supposed to take advantage of. And the reason why I can say that with complete confidence is because, and I know when I say this, all of you who've had similar experiences like I have, you won't be able to refute it, is that in those communities, like the one I grew up in, yeah, we were treated terribly by the Asians that own those stores. We were treated terribly by the Arabs that own the stores there. But guess what? We were treated terribly by the Africans that own stores too. It's not like the African stores treated us so much better. They treated us with dignity and respect. It's not like the African-owned stores sold us quality products at a lesser price because we were African. That's not how capitalism works, you all. It's a class-based system. And the people in the petty bourgeoisie classes are there to exploit and dominate the people in the working classes and the peasantry and the classes that are on lower rungs of the class ladder. That's just how that works. So you're being stuck on the Korean stores in the ghetto, and that being the reason why you don't think this is a worthy topic of discussion, that's your small-mindedness, your peanut brain mindedness. We have a much larger understanding and perspective of what's happening in the world. And so we are not going to stay stuck there. We're not going to stay stuck on how the Asian stores and the Arab stores and the African stores treat us in the ghetto. Instead, we're going to give an analysis about why that happens in the first place. So when we look at concrete reasons why solidarity strengthens us, again, white supremacy is a major appendage of the capitalist system. And the way it works, the role that it plays in the capitalist system, white supremacy, is that it perpetuates this ignorance and isolation. They're key factors in capitalism's ability to control any and everything. So as long as they can keep different communities of people, working class people primarily, afraid of each other, angry at each other, completely ignorant and isolated from each other, then the capitalist system knows that it'll definitely be in a much better position to continue to dominate all of us. And so that's the reason why they perpetuate nothing but nonsense, stereotypes. And that's the reason why most of us here, even the people that would say, well, Asian people ain't never done anything to that for us. And then I follow up and I ask them, well, what about this? What about Asians for Black Lives, for example, which is a national organization in this country? They don't know, they never know anything about it. It's not like they can respond and tell me, well, you know, I've studied Asian for Black Lives and they've done this and it's been detrimental to the African community. There's no intelligent conversation like that on that topic. It's just a bunch of talking to someone that just has like a bunch of rubber bands in their mouth, a bunch of nonsense and spit coming out and nothing of any value. So that's why we have to try to break through that and get to some concrete understanding of what we're talking about. Ignorance and isolation will never get us anywhere, will never provide any foundation for us to progress. And, you know, of course, the exploitation of us as African people is a worldwide phenomenon, you all. It didn't start in the US, so it can never be solved just in the US. It didn't start in Canada or the Caribbean or South America or Europe, so it can never be solved in those places. We will never be able to solve our problems just in these little microstates where colonialism has placed us. That's what they want us to believe, that we can somehow come to some conclusion and some solution. I look at the clowns on social media talking about this reparations, this paycheck hustling that they're trying to do, get a paycheck from the capitalist system. And they're, all they're trying to do is create some sort of scenario and analysis that allows them to get some money. That's all. They don't care about stopping the suffering and exploitation of the capitalist system worldwide. They just want to get a cash payment, a cash out payment. These people should be considered traitors to the African Revolution and should be dealt with like traitors should be dealt with. I don't care if it's your mama, should be dealt with like traitors should be dealt with, because this is the type of thing that holds us back. Our struggle is an international one. It's not just where we live right now. You're not just in the situation you're in as an African just because of where you live. In fact, you're in the situation that you're in because of where you were stolen from and what's happening with the place that was stolen and where you were stolen from. So that's important. We've got to understand that, and we've got to intensify our work of getting more of our people to understand that. And then as a result of all of that, there's no real way that Africa and African people, that we can ever be free without the other communities that are suffering under the same sources that are exploiting us also becoming free. Now, first, again, you got to understand this international portion to understand what I just said. But once you come to understand that this struggle we're engaged in is an international struggle, it becomes much easier to understand that African people cannot ever expect to reclaim Africa as long as the Americas are under control of the capitalists, the European capitalists. That's a math problem that can never equate. There's no way that we will have a strong Africa, like Shakur mentioned, where we are controlling diamond production, as an example, the one she used. There's no way that will ever happen as long as America's controlled by the European capitalists, as long as Palestine is controlled by the European capitalists and imperialists, because all of that is interconnected. The only way that we will have the strength to overcome our enemies and reclaim Africa for ourselves is because the indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere are gaining their strength and regaining these lands for themselves. One cannot happen without the other. The only way those two things can happen is the Palestinian people are reclaiming their strength and their land. That's the only way this can happen. It can't happen in one place and not the other places. That, if you believe that, you flunk math. That cannot happen from a mathematical standpoint, from a human standpoint, from a geographical standpoint, from any standpoint, because this system of exploitation is an international system. So we've got to come to understand those things. And the question why African-Asian solidarity makes sense is that we as African people, we've got to pay attention. And in order to pay attention, we've got to get our heads out of all the nonsense that we spend so much of time in our lives engaging in and start to do some research on what's going on. In 2023, you sound like a damn fool saying, well, Asian people ain't never done nothing for us. There's a whole campaign going on right now on TikTok of Asian activists who are talking about anti-Blackness in the Asian community. If you watch TikTok reels, you have to have seen them because they have unleashed a torrent of these videos talking about how the African people have been exploited under the capitalist system as long as we've been in this hemisphere, and how Asian people have been used to help perpetuate that exploitation of the African masses. These are Asians talking about this. Like the screen you see, the picture you see on my screen right now, they're having these conversations. And that's important because we aren't having those conversations in our community. We aren't talking in our community about how we are ignorant about Asian people and how we don't need to perpetuate exploitation about Asian people. A few of us are having it, but we don't have it. There's no TikTok campaign. The African campaigns on TikTok are a bunch of nonsense and foolishness. We don't come from Africa. We come from a damn sewer hole in San Francisco or LA or New York. We climbed out of the sewer. We always been there. We've been down in the damn sewer for thousands of years. That's the kind of complete idiocy that we're doing on TikTok. But our Asian family members are talking to their people about how they have been influenced to work against the interests of African people. And we think that that's just phenomenal. The only point we want to make about that is there really is no such thing as anti-Blackness. The anti is anti-Africa, because they want to make sure that all of us continue to negate and dismiss Africa, because their ability to maintain their exploitative apparatus is contingent upon them maintaining their exploitation of Africa. And the only way they can maintain their exploitation of Africa is to continue to separate us from Africa. And so as long as we're separated from Africa ideologically, philosophically, spiritually, physically, on every level, then we think, well, it's just because we're Black, they don't like us. Look, it's time for us to, I don't give a damn if these people like us. I don't give a damn if they like us. Matter of fact, I was having a discussion earlier at UC Davis with the young comrade, the LGBTQ comrade, and they were telling me, I just want to live. And I'm like, that's right. That's what we all want. And then they said, well, if people had a conversation with me, I would explain that to them. And I'm like, but that's the point. You ain't got to explain nothing. I said, you really probably don't even want to talk to them. And they were like, you're right, I don't. I'm like, you don't need to talk to them. They offer you nothing to advance the quality of your life. You don't need them. All we have to do is get stronger and walk right over their goddamn chest. That's all. We don't need them. I tell white people all the time, I don't need them. They're like, well, they want to ask questions. Well, what is this all African people? Look it up. I'm not your guide or your tutor or anything. Look it up. I mean, if you came to me in a spirit of humbleness and you wanted to understand, I would explain it to you. But you coming to me with a spirit like I have to justify what I'm doing. You don't have to do a damn thing except knock the hell out of you if you don't get out of my face. So I don't care what you think. I don't give a damn what you believe about us. You are not going to do anything to stop us from getting where we need to go. So we have got to stop all this nonsense and start realizing that we have a lot of people who are making sincere efforts to try to speak to our condition. A whole lot more people are trying to speak to our condition than we're trying to speak to their condition. That's just an objective fact. So we continue to do our work to try to do that. And like I said, there's a ton of this work happening in the Asian community. All you got to do is get on a smartphone and get on YouTube and TikTok, and you'll see that work happening, that they're engaging in their communities, and you'll see it. And the more this work continues, and the more we can wake our people up to do the same thing as it relates to other people, the stronger we'll get, you all. That's just objectively true. The stronger you get, we'll get, you all. And for us African people, one of the first things we have to do is expose these clowns and these perpetrators in our community. Anybody that's talking about they're for African people, but they're pro-capitalist, they're homophobic, they're patriarchal, they're xenophobic, guess what? They are not for African people. They are not for anybody except lining their pockets with money. That's what that is. And I tell them that to their damn face, because that's exactly what it is. So we've got to start exposing these people. There is a criteria to say that you stand up for African people. How are you going to be for us and you support the system that put us in this position in the first place? That makes absolutely no sense to any of us who are trying our best to use our brain cells. So we've got to start exposing that and doing this work to connect to other communities that are doing the work so that we can begin to build that strength. We don't lose anything by doing that. Those of you that want to work on learning Swahili or Akan or Fulani and dress in African clothes and learn Ife and do everything African, that none of what I'm talking about takes away your ability to do any of those things. But what it does do is put us in a better position to achieve our liberation, because I don't care how many African shirts you wear or how much you speak Swahili, none of those things alone is going to free us. We have got to organize and confront this damn capitalist system and destroy it. and build something better. That is the only thing that's going to change these conditions we face. You can wear a African shirt from here to the next millennium, and it's not going to do a damn thing to change our conditions. And the only way we're going to be able to wage that kind of war, that kind of protracted war against the system, is we're going to have to be on the same page with all the oppressed people on the planet Earth. We can struggle in our lane as African people. We can build our work as African people, but we have to be on the same page with the other people who are hopefully doing the same work in their communities. That's what we're talking about. Don't misconstrue it. Don't misunderstand it. Don't confuse it because you want to maintain the ignorant space that you're safe in. Be courageous for the first goddamn time in your life and stand up and say, you know what? I need to grow beyond what I'm comfortable with, because doing so is in the best interest of my people and humanity. Because that's all we're talking about, you all. Because we know African nationalism and solidarity with Asian and other communities can and should happen at the same time. In other words, we can be all about Africa and still have solidarity with other people. We don't lose anything. I lost nothing by being out there. I was surrounded by drag queens 2 hours ago in UC Davis. I lost nothing. Everybody there knew exactly who I was and what I represented. People came up to me, oh, you know, you're involved in the Black struggle. You're involved in the Pan-African struggle. They know that. They know I'm not a part of that community, the LGBTQ community. That's why they're thanking me. They know that. You don't lose anything. You don't have to lose who you are to stand up for justice. The only people that believe that are people that don't stand up for anything except to get drunk or high or eat food or have sex. That's all you know how to do. You don't know how to do anything beyond yourself. And that's why we're in this situation. So we can say right now that you can reclaim your identity as an African and still have solidarity with other oppressed people, and you lose nothing by doing that. All you do is gain. That's all that happens. And we need to strengthen our African consciousness about how capitalism uses Asian and other oppressed people against us. The menace to society scene, what does that reflect? It reflects the contradictions of the capitalist system. Ghettos are not communities we created. We didn't create those communities. We didn't say, you know what? I know, I got a good idea. Let's create a community, put all our people in it, have no jobs there, no opportunity, nothing. Okay, that's what we want to do. How's that sound? Oh, man, that's the best idea I've heard my entire life. Let's get to work on that right away. We didn't do that. We didn't create those communities. Those communities were created. They were designed for us. We were put there intentionally. These communities, you can't find 1 square inch where African people live. You can't name one city in this backward ass country where we live in large numbers that have not been redlined, meaning we were only allowed to live in certain neighborhoods by law. They couldn't even show us houses in areas that weren't in those redlined areas. And we paid more money for those to live in those areas than people paid in other areas. We paid more for our food when we bought it than people paid in other areas. So this is the reason why we got stuck in these ghettos. This is the reason why we don't have the ability to build wealth. Because how the hell are we going to build wealth collectively when the damn system has been built on stealing our wealth? That's what the capitalist system has always done. I'm so sick and tired of these hoot butt Negroes, defecation Negroes. That's all they are. What they put in the toilet has more value to me than they do. Sitting here talking about, oh, we need to build wealth. No, all you're talking about is how you can build wealth for yourself. Some of us are not that stupid. Because if your program worked, and it's not a new thing, these Negroes been talking about this for 100 years, building wealth. And the masses of our people have consistently gone backward. The more money our people put into these build wealth scams, the more we have sunk down into deeper poverty. No, there's no solution in the capitalist system. We're sick of hearing that. You know, and I just hope, I'm trying to stay out of jail as best I can. I don't want to be walking down the street and see one of these Negroes talking about this stuff, because I'll probably end up in jail. I'm so sick of hearing it. But this is what we need to do, is strengthen our African consciousness about how the capitalist system, you know, this lie that we tell, well, you know, the Asians, they go in their house, they live 30 people in the house, and they save, they don't even eat. They eat 1 meal a week, and they save all their money under a mattress. And that's how they're able to buy up all these stores. I mean, y'all sound like people that are completely ignorant when you talk like that. Completely stupid and ignorant when you talk like that. Don't you know that in this country, the #1 pimp in this country is the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS. They created the pimp game. You know, I can say that because every year you're going to pay them. Somebody might not get paid. You might not even have your electricity on, but they're going to get paid. And if you decide, well, I'm not going to pay them, that's cool. Eventually, they're going to get their money because they have the pimp mechanisms in place to ensure that they get it. So since I know how they work, I know what they do, I know that anybody that saves $50,000, $100,000 under a mattress, and you go to buy a building with $50,000 cash, $100,000 cash, any of you that have ever worked in the banking industry, you know what's going to happen. You're going to have to fill out that, I don't remember what the number of the form is, but you cannot accept more than $9,999.99 in cash without filing a report with the IRS. Why is that? Because they are the #1 pimp in this society. And if you come in somewhere with $10,000 cash or more, they want their pimp cut. They want their pimp cut. And you're not going to be able to tell them, well, we saved it under a mattress, eating 1 meal a week. No, they're going to take 40, 50% of that, whatever it is now. They're going to take so much of that. So you're not going to have $50,000 to buy a building. You're not going to have $100,000 to buy a building. You're not going to be able to create all these businesses that way. And I know, because I have a background in economics. Here in Sacramento has a large Asian community. On Stockton Boulevard, they own all the businesses on that whole street. It used to be a very rundown part of town. Now they've built up all these nail salons, all these massage parlors, all these restaurants, all this stuff. This is a capitalist enterprise, you all. You think that those are their family members, they built that up on, that's how dumb we are. Oh, that's their family. They're keeping the wealth. Most of the people working in those massage parlors, in those nail salons, are immigrant labor. A lot of them undocumented immigrant labor. A lot of them viciously exploited by the Asian people that look like them that run those businesses. This is a fact, because we have done, the research is there for all to see. They have come after many of these businesses here in the town I live in for exploiting these folks. Even the backward ass police departments have to come down on these people because they have sex, like Shakur mentioned, sex trafficking rings in these massage parlors, and they subject these young women to them. These aren't their family members. Boy, we're so damn dumb. These aren't their family members. This is capitalism in full force. And so they exist the same way in the communities we live in. It's exploitative. And we're so dumb, we're like, oh, that's their family. They're treating us bad because we Black. They don't like us. It's anti-Blackness. Man, oh man. I mean, 100 years from now, some Martians land here and they see video. Somebody puts a video in a capsule or something, and they see video of how insane we are and what we talk about on social media. They have to shake their heads and they'd have to say, man, no wonder they're extinct, dumbass people. I mean, I say now, like, I'm sure because there's no reason to believe that we're the only species in the galaxy. There's no reason I have to believe that. I'm sure there's other species that exist in the galaxy that are not human. I think the only reason why we haven't seen them is because they probably peeped out how damn crazy people are here, and they're like, let's find somewhere else to get some resources or make friends or do. Then people create. We land there. Them goddamn people. Why we be at war for the next thousands of years? They're so primitive. So we have got to wake up. We only use 6% of our brains. We have 94% that we're not using. Some of us have 100% we're not using. So we really got to focus in on doing everything we can to try to wake up. We love to say, woke, I'm woke. But this is the kind of stuff that demonstrates that we're woke, that we come to understand this, that the capitalist system turns everybody against everybody. That's why even Africans that have businesses are not engaged in any broad scale effort to uplift the African community. They're trying to make money. Because when you're in business in the capitalist system, that's what you have to do. Your margins are low. Your profit margins are low. So you have to, even if you're African, if you hire African people, you got to pay them the low wages than any other employer would pay them. In fact, the larger European capitalist employers can pay them more because they have more capacity. They have a higher profit margin than you have in your little small business. So this is the thing. We've got to understand these things and stop being so swayed by superficial base level analysis. I don't even want to call it analysis, superficial nursery rhymes that pose as analysis, because that's what we're doing. And we got to get beyond that. So the work that we have to do this, it's like, look at the comrade, look at the picture. When Black lives are threatened, all of our lives are threatened. Okay, people understand that, you all. So that's right there in front of you. So stop repeating that ignorant mantra. Nobody's ever done anything for us. You ain't held no sign talking about the value of Asian life. You know goddamn well you've never held no sign saying that. So you got to stop saying that today, right now, ever again. Stop saying all that stupidity. And let's get to work. We cannot let negative stereotypes about the nail salons and the ghetto shape our perspectives of Asian interactions with African people. We have to view those as conditions of the capitalist system. All of those are conditions of the capitalist system. Because if you're going to look at how we're treated in nail salons as your justification as to why you don't trust Asians, then with that backward thinking, then you have to say, well, anytime there's an African that kills another African or robs another African, then that's why we can't deal with each other. Clearly, that does not make any sense. And it's certainly not a thinking that's going to get us anywhere. So obviously, there has to be more to this. And the more to it is that this system is set up to pit us against one another, to pit African people against each other, to pit Asian people against each other, and certainly to pit us against our communities. And with every other community, indigenous people, Arab communities, to pit us all against each other, because this is the only way the capitalist system can survive. And the best thing we can do right now is realize that and start talking about that so that we can further educate the populace about that and not fall into their tropes and their traps to turn us against one another. And then instead, we need to understand class struggle and how anti-Africaness, again, not anti-Blackness, there's no such thing. This is about Africa. That's why they don't like us, is because if we wake up, they can't get rich off of us anymore. There's no riches. Please explain to me where there's any control of resources based on my skin color. That doesn't exist. The riches, like Shakur said, land is power. Land is power. Blackness is not power. Land is power. Yes, we are Black and we come from the land that has the power. That's African nationalism. But I don't have anything in common with you just because you're Black. I have to know what your interests are, what you're fighting for. You might be my grave enemy. Black as the tar might be my grave enemy. And there's people that are white as the lines on the street that might be my closest ally. And I'll unite with them to kill you because you're an enemy to humanity, even though you might look like me. I know that's a lot for a lot of people, because some people's brains are so small that like saying something like that, they just exploded. Somebody got to clean up the brain matter now. But it's the truth. It's irrefutable. And we will never back down from that. We will continue to state that for as long as we live, because it's the correct position. But we certainly say that understanding that we want to get as many of our African people on our side as possible, because we know the overwhelming majority of African people on earth are for justice and for humanity. We just have to do the work to wake our people up, and that's the work that we're doing. So part of that is understanding this class struggle that's being mentioned here, and that's what it is. It's nothing but a class struggle. And on that international level, that's where our struggle really is. Africa and Asia have so much in common in order to solve our problems. So much in common. We don't have time to talk about it here, but all we will say is that we know that as we begin to connect these anti-colonial struggles and these struggles on the ground all over the world, we will get a much better insight into how much we have in common as human beings who are fighting not to be a part of the capitalist system, but to overthrow it and create something better for each of our communities and all of humanity, you all of humanity. So we really thank you for joining us today. Shakur is 100% correct, as she is every week. We got to get people in organizations, you all. The more people we get in organizations, the easier it becomes for people to understand these concepts that we're talking about. So let's get people in organizations. And one thing that we want to do is invite you next week to come back Sunday, June 11th. We're going to talk about same time, same place as always, reclaiming Juneteenth. Juneteenth has become such a poot butt day, sponsored by Wells Fargo and Poot Beans Bean Company and whoever the hell else is controlling Juneteenth. We got to stop all that nonsense and take it back and make it what it really is, a commemoration of our continued fight to be free of this empire. And so join us next week when we talk about that. Go to the AAPRP Forward Ever shop, please. Go to aaprp-intl.org and join the All African People's Revolutionary Party. You should do that. If you're African, you should do that without question. And if you don't want to do that, you should join some other organization, Black Alliance for Peace, Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, Nation of Islam, you choose. And if you don't want to join any of those, then you should start I'm glad it's at the hour so he can shut up organization and organize for justice around that organization. Go to betterworld.me. All these videos are housed there. You can get them and share them. Please do that. hoodcommunist.org, outstanding revolutionary African voices. You should definitely support that and tell people about it. Support all of our programs here on the ground that are designed to educate the African masses and all peace and justice loving people about what we need to do to be free, you all. So support that. We appreciate each and every one of you. Still continuing to encourage you to tell people about my book, A Guide for Organizing Defense Against White Supremacist, Patriarchal, and Fascist Violence. We want to continue to sell it. I use it to finance my activism. I'm old, so I bought elbow pads and knee pads. If I got to be tussling with white supremacists, I don't want to hit the ground. The money I use to do that, I get from proceeds from this book. So please help out. Please tell people. We appreciate each and every one of you. We're glad that you joined us this week. We want to ask you to come back next week. We want to ask you to be strong, be encouraged, be positive. We're coming off of African Liberation Day. It was a wonderful week last week. And we want to encourage you to be positive. Don't let these people tell you that I listened to the people talk out there today. They talked about the trauma they've had their whole lives. Don't let these people traumatize you. They're trying to put you down because they're down. They know the system that they've placed all their faith and values into is corrupt and its days are numbered. And the only way they can prolong that and prevent that from happening is to push us down. Don't let them succeed. There is absolutely nothing wrong with any of you at all. The only thing wrong with you is the capitalist, imperialist empire. So let's organize and shut it down. Have a great rest of your Sunday evening. Forward ever, backwards never.